Welcome back to Mom's Work. I'm your host, Kristen Weinrich, mom of two, teacher, and someone who is constantly reminding herself that parenting does not come with a manual. Today's episode is one I think that many of you will connect with. We're talking about kids' mental health, specifically anxiety, and how parents can support their kids without completely burning themselves out. Joining me today is Dr. Fiona MacPhee, a licensed child psychologist with over 15 years of clinical and research experience. She specializes in helping families navigate ADHD, OCD, anxiety, behavioral challenges, emotional regulation, and school-related stress. Man, you do it all, Fiona. She has supported hundreds of families in building confidence, skills, and stronger relationships. You can find her on Instagram at Dr. Fiona MacPhee, and that's MAC, not
Love it.
MCPHEE. And I will link all of your information in the show notes just so people know that right now. Fiona, I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I'm looking forward to this. I think a lot of people will learn a lot from you. So why don't we start off with you introducing yourself to the listeners and then tell us about your work, your background, anything else you'd like us to know, and we'll go from there. Take it away.
Sure. So we got connected because I am from this area. I moved here when I was 11, so I didn't get to have Kristen as my elementary school teacher,
Tragedy of your
unfortunately.
life.
But I did go to TE Middle and Conestoga High School. And then for college, I went to New York University, and that is where I first started working with kids with mental health difficulties at the NYU Child Study Center. And that's really when I decided, okay, this is my passion. I want to get a PhD in this. And I was really also interested in research, like learning how best to diagnose and treat kids and help out parents too. So I knew I wanted to do like a research heavy career back then. And to be competitive for that, you can't apply really to PhD programs right out of
Okay.
undergrad. So I after I graduated from NYU, I went and worked at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, and doing research on, it was really cool actually, this research project. It was like how best to train therapists in the community, on how to do parent child interaction therapy, which is
Oh,
a
wow.
therapy for parents of kids with like aggression problems or difficulty following directions, kind of oppositional kids. After that, it was worth it because I got into my dream PhD program, in Miami at Florida International University, and I studied under Dr. Bell Pelham. It was an ADHD focused lab. And after that, I did my residency at University of Washington slash Seattle Children's
Oh,
Hospital,
wow.
still focusing on ADHD, but also I did rotations in like at the autism center, an eating disorder rotation, and lots of work with kids with OCD, anxiety. Stayed there to do my postdoctoral fellowship. And then after all that, I was kind of like, I really love research, but what I really love most is getting to work directly with families. So I decided, all right, I'm going to go full clinical work. And I joined a group practice there. Did a lot of intensive work on OCD, anxiety there. It was an anxiety clinic, but I was also like, guys, I miss my ADHD kids so much. So I was lucky that they like gave me all the ADHD kids to work with that came through the center, and I started doing like ADHD evaluations there too. And then I was like, okay, I left the main line basically right when I turned 18. I'm
Right.
now 34 living in Seattle. I've lived all over the country. And I was like, why am I literally kind of the farthest away that I could be from my family and
Yeah.
friends? So I moved back home and I opened up my own private practice here, which is kind of a long standing dream of mine. So I'm really excited to do it. And that was like about 5 months ago. So here I am.
So here you are living your dream.
Yeah.
And what do you like to do in your, if you have, I don't know, do you have spare time? What do you like to do in your spare time after all that? Well, helping
I
all those
do.
kids.
Well, I love, hey, spare time is important to me.
Yes.
I feel like that's such a cliche therapist thing to say, but like, gotta do fun things too.
Time for you.
So I love to hang out with family and friends. I love to go out to restaurants. I love hiking, which it's different here. I miss the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I bet.
Same with skiing. And I also have a dog that I spend a lot of time with.
Great. So you've got a lot of downtime, relaxing time. That's good, in addition to all your important work. All right, I've got a couple more questions that'll help us get to know you even better. What originally drew you to working with families and children specifically?
Yeah. So I think I first realized that I loved psychology at Conestoga. I took the AP Psych class, and
It's a popular class. Kids
yeah,
talk about it.
I wonder if it's still Mr. Zimmerman who
Yeah.
teaches. He was
I
awesome.
think he still teaches it. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And I was like a good student, but I'm kind of bad at like trying hard at things that I'm not super interested in,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
that,
everybody?
yeah, right.
Like, meh.
And that was the first class I was like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting, and I love studying for it. So I decided to major in it at NYU, and then I think I like took a random class in child and adolescent mental health. Then I decided to minor in child and adolescent mental health. So
Okay.
I've been doing the same thing for a long time. And then I worked at the Child Study Center in a program. It kind of was like, I need a summer job. Oh, I heard about this. And it was a summer treatment program for kids with ADHD and common co occurring things.
Okay.
And I just loved it so much. Like it was like, I am home. Like this
Yeah.
makes sense to me. Like this
Yeah.
behavioral treatment system makes sense to me. The kids are hilarious and so fun, and it was so rewarding, like helping them out with things that they were struggling in. And I actually worked in that program for about like 10 years.
Oh wow, so you really did love it. And that's lucky. I mean, at a young age to find something that you were so passionate
Yeah.
about. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
not everybody is that fortunate. Okay, and what would you say, and I feel like a little bit you've kind of already alluded to it, but after 15 years in this field, what part of the work feels the most meaningful to you?
I think seeing functional changes in what the families care about. So, like, what the kids care about, what parents care about, whether that's like anxiety that parents are like, ugh, like my kid just isn't doing the things that they used to like to do, um, getting them back out, kind of living their lives.
Mm, yeah, that's a big step for them and for their parents. And what is one thing that you wish all parents understood about kids' mental health?
That it's not their fault if their kid is struggling. Because I think sometimes I'm like, oh, is it my own anxiety that I get so stuck on this of like, I'm always like, it's not your fault, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the reason why I always really want to say that until I'm blue in the face is I work with parents a lot, and a lot of that work obviously is helping parents like change up the way they're parenting a kid with
Right.
ADHD, a kid with anxiety, a kid with OCD, depression. Um, and I'm like, just because part of the treatment is doing things differently, it doesn't mean that you caused it, if that makes sense. Like I
Mhm.
always say, kids don't come with a manual, but kids with mental health difficulties definitely don't come with a
Right,
manual.
right, or a
I love
different
that you
manual.
said that in the beginning. Yeah. So I think that's the most important thing to me.
And that's probably helpful to the parents, even if they kind of know it, to hear you say it, because I think
Yeah.
parents are always thinking, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Did I cause it? Was it my fault? And so to hear an expert, a doctor, say that there's nothing you could have done, is probably very uh, reassuring to them. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
great.
it's a very outdated psychological theory that was based in nothing, like no research. So
Just like to make the parents feel bad. This is your
yeah,
fault.
right, right.
Um,
I do want to say, just because sometimes this gets a little sticky, that genetics do have a huge part in
okay.
like anxiety, mental health things run in families. So sometimes the parents are like, well, then it technically is my fault. I'm like, no, no, no.
But it's not like it's not your
Also,
fault that they have brown
sometimes,
hair.
totally. And sometimes this is really common, right? You have one kid with anxiety and your other kid doesn't. So, like, how could it be that
Right.
you caused it then? That doesn't.
Right, right. Gave it to one, not the other. That pundit square or whatever it is we all learned in biology, right? You have a 25% chance every time you have a kid. All right. Before we get more into this topic talk, which I am really excited to hear from you, let's talk about our wins and our challenge of the week. Would you like to start with a win or a challenge?
I can start with a win. I talked about that I was like, why am I living so far away from my family and friends? And last night I hung out with one of my best friends, like since middle school, who I've stayed really close with throughout the years, but haven't lived like since we were like 17. We haven't lived in the same place, so it's
Right.
so nice. I feel like that's such a big win that now I'm
And
back.
are most of them still here in the area?
Yeah,
Like when you came home, you were like, I'm back, friends. Let's pick up where we left off in 12th
yeah.
grade. Yeah.
Most of them, maybe like 50%.
That's pretty good. That's pretty
Yeah,
good. And
yeah.
you get to be in touch with them and be home. And do you feel like settled now? Like, did you always picture yourself on the West Coast or did you always think I'm coming back to the East Coast?
Oh, I never thought I was coming back here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was such like I love living in tons of different places, and that's exciting to me. I think when you get older though, it's just like I want to like be around my family.
I always say that, like, I found that people after college would move away from here for about 10 years. And it was always like Boston, DC, and New York. And at like the class reunions and stuff, they're like, oh, I live here. And I'm like, yeah, I still live like 4 minutes from where I grew up. And then they had kids and got older, and I'm like, everybody's back. So it's
Yeah,
a nice place to live. So, everybody kind of
totally
has to,
is. Yeah.
so people have to like go do their thing. And then I think, when they're ready to really settle down, they tend to come back. I will tell you my win is that one of my New Year's resolutions, goals, I'm not really a resolution person, but was to learn how to make sourdough bread. And I mentioned it actually to a mom at the school where I work because she has a great scone recipe. She knows who she is if she's listening. And she was like, do you do sourdough? And I was like, no, but I want to. And into school, she sent with her son like a little jar of starter. And so I've made 3 different batches of it. And yeah, I have to like not make it because let me tell you, warm sourdough bread out of the
Oh, I
oven with butter on top. I'm like, I
I
literally could eat this entire, like I literally could do this
love.
single-handedly by myself. And I'm like, we got to cool it on the sourdough. But it's fun and it takes a little more like you have to think about it because it's sort of like a 3-day process. But I named it because apparently you name your sourdough starter. And I don't know if you know this, Fiona, but I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. So a friend of mine, I was like, I think I'm gonna name it Fred, and she was like, why wouldn't you name it Dophelia? And I was like, oh, I was like, why didn't I think of that? Like, more importantly, I'm so disappointed in myself. So Dophelia, she's delicious when we make her. And thank you, Taylor, for the creative name. So we call it the bake of Dophelia rather than the fate of. So that's
Oh
my
my gosh,
win,
I love
sourdough. But I just made some the other day, so I'm gonna hold off for a week or two, so we're not just turning into sourdough loaves over here at my house.
it. Yeah.
Yikes. And what about your challenge this week?
Okay, is this okay if it's kind of a long one, but it's super on topic?
Please. We're all about length here at Mom's Work. Go ahead.
So I did I guess it was like a workshop, I don't know, the other night for a really cool foundation that's called the International OCD Foundation, and
Mm,
it was called like parent accountability or something. And it was me and then 2 really awesome people who work closely with the foundation and who are also parents,
okay.
someone who grew up with like really severe OCD. And they asked me a question of what's important for parents. And I always kind of like pause before I say this because I kind of hate this metaphor, but I said it anyway in the workshop of like, it's really important to the metaphor of like putting your own, sorry, let me restart that. The metaphor of if you're on a plane,
hmm
it's important to put on your oxygen mask before putting on others.
Yeah.
And that can be really applied to parenting. And I love that one of the parents said that because she was like, therapists always say that. But I was, when my kid was really going through it, like I just couldn't not give my whole self to
hmm
helping her. And like I basically was barely functioning. Like all I was doing was like trying to help her with her OCD treatment. And I caught myself like thinking a lot, kind of worrying and ruminating about it a lot the next few days after it, which is a thing that I'm working on. But I was like, oh, I always err on trying to help parents not feel guilty. And then
Yeah.
I was like, oh shoot, I accidentally like kind of made her feel guilty the other way of
By
like
trying to not.
doing all of this. And I did say to her in the moment, like, well, maybe that was your mask,
Yeah.
right?
To
Like,
throw herself into it.
yeah, and that is what was helping her. But yeah, it was a challenge because I was thinking a lot about it after, and I was like, oh, maybe I said the wrong thing.
Right? Don't we all do that after you're like you're trying to offer advice and then you're like, maybe I overstepped, maybe I shouldn't have said it. And but I think it's like we said before, it's a touchy subject. And of course, when it's your child, you would do anything to help, but then you do kind of lose yourself in certain things. So maybe she's been thinking about it too, and it's clicking for
I
her.
know. I'm going to shoot her an email because I'm also really thankful that she said that because this is why I love doing these things and working with lots of different parents because even though I've been doing it for a long time, like every time I learn something new.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, all right, and my challenge is different from that, but that's okay. February. Here we are. This will air in March, but it's February, and I feel like it's really been quite a winter. For today in Pennsylvania, it's the first time that I think we've seen grass in maybe 6 weeks because and I've talked about this before, it's just been so cold. And of course, now there's like, I don't know, 8 more inches of snow coming tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, but I feel like I I would not say that I have like seasonal affective disorder, but I was reading something about the pre-spring blues the other day, and it was like every day feels the same. Everything's dark, everything's cold, and I was like, yes, like you just feel I feel like every day I'm like, let's just wake up and like push through and like I just can't wait for spring this year. Like I just feel like we all need like some sun and some warmth and like the ability to go outside and kids to run and play on the playground. Like they've been outside, but they've been on the blacktop because the playground is full of like a foot and a half of snow for 6 weeks. And I feel like we're all just kind of like caged right now. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great way to say it. Like pre-spring blues. But when I woke up this morning, the first thing I heard was birds chirping, and I was like, oh, I haven't heard that in months. So it was my sign that maybe the challenge is coming. Maybe the challenge is coming to an end until that storm hits
I
tomorrow
know.
afternoon. I'm like, I don't know. It's like maybe this will be it.
Hopefully it won't freeze into like a foot of ice that,
That's what I think. I mean, I think that it is going to snow, but then I think the temperatures are going to be warmer this week, so
yeah.
maybe it'll come and go faster. But I just feel like for anybody anywhere they are, whether it's cold and freezing and snowy or not, but if you're just kind of feeling like sort of done with the winter, like that's kind of how I feel. Like I want the late sun and the longer days and all of that. So that's my
I
challenge right
feel
now.
you.
All right, so let's get into it because as I was telling you before we got on and started recording, in the last, I would say 10 to 15 years as a teacher, we have seen a huge uptick in anxiety in children. And the first child that I taught who I really knew had anxiety was about 15 years ago. And that child was kind of like a unicorn, and it was like, ooh, this is anxiety. I had never dealt with anxiety before. But since then, I'd say every year there's a kid or two or more in a classroom who is actually diagnosed with anxiety. And it was kind of funny, kind of not. About 7 years ago, I had, I think, like 6 little boys in one class that I taught with anxiety. And I felt like the mother duck. Like they would like follow me around the classroom, like, Mrs. Weinrich, is this okay? Mrs. Weinrich. And I was like, oh my gosh. But you feel for them because they're little and they're away from home and you're kind of like their comfort in the classroom. And they would like ask me the same thing and, come and see me and talk to me. And I was like, oh my goodness, these poor kids, in their own little brain. But, and that having 6 or 7 of them is not, oh, look, I just did 6, 7, um, is, not, but it's out now. The kids tell me 6, 7 is out
Well,
for
I was gonna say
2026.
that still happens.
Thank God. Anyway, I had a large amount of children in that one class with anxiety, which is not typical to have that many, but it is definitely something that has increased in my 23 years of teaching. So I'm very much looking forward to what you have to say. And so Anxiety can look different from child to child. And and you were saying that too before we started recording, oh, what did it look like? What does that, how does this child present? What can you talk about? What are some common ways that anxiety shows up in kids that parents might not recognize immediately as anxiety?
Yeah. I think you brought up a really good example. They're like following you around asking you a bunch of questions. Like reassurance seeking.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's a super confusing one because, of course, as parents, as teachers, it's part of your role to like teach kids, right? Answer questions. Like
Right.
that's
Right.
normal interaction between adults and kids. And so sometimes it's like, wait a second, I've answered that question before. Like this is a lot of question asking.
Hmm.
So that's a super common one that it's no longer information seeking questions. It's like security seeking, safety seeking, and I mean safety like when there isn't a danger, right?
Right. Like I would see it as like, Mrs. Weinrich, can I go fill up my water bottle? Sure. And then they'd kind of like wander around the room for a couple minutes and then come back. So it's okay if I go fill up my water bottle? And I'd be like, yeah, go ahead. Okay, so I'm gonna go do that right now. That's okay. And you're like, oh my gosh, yes, go fill up your water bottle. But
Yeah.
then, after a while, you kind of realize, oh, it is more of like that reassurance. Like, it's okay. It's okay if I go. They're all right. It's okay. And you're like, it's okay. But you think, oh,
They're wanting, well, this brings up another one, right? So overestimating risk. So like it sounds like in that interaction, the kids, they're totally overestimating that you're gonna be mad or yell at them, based on no evidence. You've
which
already
I never do as a teacher. I always speak with kindness and love. No.
So like you've already told them that,
Yeah.
and it really has nothing to do with you. It's
Hmm.
just their anxiety brain is making up that that's a
Right.
possible outcome of, and so they're like making sure like you got to confirm that
It is
that is gonna happen.
okay.
Yeah, that this is okay. So that's a common one. So like overestimating risk, kind of, like going to a birthday party. Like kids without anxiety might be like, I don't know if this is going to be fun, whatever. That's kind of normal thinking. Maybe it is going to be fun, whatever, I'm going. A kid with anxiety might be really like, what's going to happen at the birthday party? Like, are you
Mhm.
sure it's going to be fun? And then be like, well, actually, I don't want to go because, whatever bad thing their anxiety is overestimating, they think might happen, rather than being open to who knows what's going to happen. Like,
Right.
might be fun, might be not, it's okay. um Similar to that, kind of wanting to be overly in control, and what that looks like in kids is more that kind of asking like what exactly is going to happen,
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
so that they can kind of like prepare for
Picture
all
it.
those
Yeah.
risk situations that they're overestimating.
How about like a lash out, like before
Yeah,
I knew a child who before like a birthday party or something that was sort of quote unquote an unknown would kind of have like this major freak out, and then the mom would be like, I don't understand, and then came to realize this is my child's anxiety. And it was often a birthday party or going to a friend's house or something that wasn't quote unquote scripted, and it would be like this big meltdown sort of before, and then they would go and have a great time, but it took a lot to get there
totally.
in
Yeah.
terms of
With
emotion.
Yeah, totally. With younger kids especially, you can see more like tantruming, right? And that can also snowball accidentally, because the kid might accidentally learn, okay, if I like kind of have a big tantrum, then I end up not having to go. So
Mm.
kudos to that mom still getting
Yeah.
that. And I'm not saying the kid's like, manipulative or anything,
No,
like
it's just their
planning.
anxiety.
It's
Yeah.
just that's how brains work. Like you do something, an outcome happens, it connects the two. So, yeah, that's super common for younger kids of like, oh, I'm just like feeling genuinely like terrified of going to
Hmm.
a party, and big emotions, and having these lash outs for sure.
And what about like I know a lot of kids at school too will have physical symptoms and ask to go to the nurse, and I have a headache and I have a stomach ache and I don't feel well. And then that kind of turns out we're like, oh no, it's just like you have a math test in half an hour, or whatever it is. And
Totally. Yeah,
that comes
that's
out a
such
lot.
a common one. And that's also tricky too, because then parents are like, are they sick? Should they stay home from school? And
Right,
that can
right.
be confusing.
And you're not sure if, right, if it's just the anxiety. And good question, kind of going along with that. How does anxiety present differently in younger children versus in like teens and tweens?
Yeah. So younger kids, definitely more of like tantrums or crying or lash outs, like those sort of things. Teenagers might be, and part of this is because this is a totally normative, developmental pathway.
Right.
Um, might be more quiet and kind of be like shutting down more, is what I more commonly hear. Not
Okay.
everyone, of course, but
Okay.
just on average. Um, the other thing nowadays, which really stinks, but to look out for is phone use.
Oh,
The
okay.
phone is the most excellent like escape
Mm,
from anxiety.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And another, it stinks, but it's normal that kids spend a lot of time on their phones. But a lot of like, I work with a lot of teenagers that are having trouble going to school, and
Okay.
oftentimes anxiety is the underlying thing of that. And they'll be at home, scrolling, looking at TikTok, whatever, and like, what a great escape from thinking about
Right.
the outside world. So I think that's something to be careful about and to look out for.
Interesting. Okay. I thought of another question, but now I can't remember what it was. All right, so separation anxiety is something that a lot of parents and kids struggle with. And I remember this is kind of a funny side story when my son was like 15 months old to I think it happened for literally an entire year. So about 15 months until he was 2 years old, I would drop him off at daycare and he loved daycare and they were wonderful and he loved his teacher. And every single day I would put him down at his little table for breakfast and I would get to the door and I would put my hand on the handle and he would start to cry. And I was like, ugh. And I would be like, just leave. Like the teacher was like, he's fine, just go. And one
Yeah.
day she was like, Kristen, go out the door and step to the side. And you'll see that in literally
Oh,
5 seconds, he stops crying. And he did. And she was like, he's just trying to make you feel bad, And that, I think that, of course, at 15, but and it's kind of like a funny story now because they would send me pictures when he was happy. So now when like the pictures come up in our photo memories, he's like, I must have cried that day. I'm like, you cried every day. And he's like, oh, yeah, sorry, mom. But I think that is a typical 15-month-old kind of thing. And I was like, I think he was just trying to make me feel bad. But when they get older, kind of what is developmentally typical and when does it signal something more going on?
yeah. It's a good, so yes, totally normal for younger kids until about like toddlery age. Um,
Now he's like, see ya. No,
yeah,
he's like,
right.
bye.
Yeah,
And me too. I'm like, love you. See you at 4.
yeah. You're like,
Nobody,
"It's
I'm like,
not
we need a little separation, my
yet."
love. We need a little separation.
I love that. But it's also super different because like some kids go to daycare, some kids don't.
Yeah.
And so it's super normal for a kid who doesn't like, actually last night when I was hanging out with my friend, we distracted we distracted her 2-year-old and then ran out the back door. And
Yeah.
he's fine. He's with
Yeah.
his dad, but if he sees her walk out the door, he's like, no,
Hmm.
no, no, no.
And
So
then you feel so bad as a mom, and you're like, no, this is okay. Like he's with his father. He's gonna.
right.
I didn't like
I
send him to the
know.
torture chamber, but they're little tears. You're like, oh baby.
It sounds like they're being
Oh,
tortured.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really turn it on for you.
Yeah, and it like really pulls at your heartstrings. So yeah, I think it also just is based on experiences too, right? Of like if a kid's more used to it or not. Like I'm sure his first day of preschool without her is going to be
Oh,
horrible.
yes, of course.
Not
Probably
the
worse
first,
for her than for him.
yeah,
She'll feel
exactly.
worse. Yeah.
But I have worked with kids that have separation anxiety like way older though.
Okay.
And sometimes like in also a little bit like OCD of thinking that something bad is going to happen
Mm-hmm.
um, if they're not around their parents. So,
And
yeah,
so at what like age or what would be kind of your signals that it's more than like your typical?
totally. So following parents around the house.
Okay.
Sometimes when it's OCD, which means there's just like a compulsion attached, I have a lot of kids that will say, like, I love you before they leave a room.
Okay.
that their parents are in, or their parents will then get dragged into that ritual of having to say something like before they leave a room. But classic separation anxiety is like, okay, they are not doing, if they're at an age where sleepovers would be a normal thing to be doing, they're not doing that.
Okay.
They're going to the grocery store with their parent all the time, even if
Okay.
they don't have to. There's like another parent at home or something.
Yeah.
Um, and they're really worried that something bad is going to happen.
Okay. And is it typically attached to one parent over the other, or just like, is it typically like I need to be with dad all the time, or I need to be with
Yeah.
mom all the time,
And
rather than either parent?
it is usually. So it's
Okay.
bad for the other parent. They're like, what about me?
Yeah, right?
But yeah, it usually, yeah, like mom's gonna get in a car accident, but that same fear isn't attached to dad. And sometimes it is, but yeah, sometimes it's not.
Okay. And it seems like social anxiety seems to be more common than ever. And I guess I feel like poor COVID, we blame everything on COVID, 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 COVID. But also now, I mean, kids that I work with and I see, and even my own children were young enough and or old enough to not be so much affected. My kids were little, they were 1 and 3, and so they were happy as can be to be home with us for a year, and then like kind of their life moved on. So I don't feel like my kids are hopefully quote unquote affected, but kids who are a little bit older than them, maybe right in that sort of crucial time of when they would be making friends and learning the social skills. And I don't know if you feel that that contributes to it, or anyway, what should parents watch for in terms of that, like in school and social settings?
Yeah. With social anxiety, I mean, with all anxiety, avoidance is a huge part.
Hmm.
Um, so like avoiding situations that their anxiety spikes. So of course with social anxiety, that would be, like parties, like speaking in front of the class. I wonder if you see that. Um,
Yeah.
not raising their hand.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I'm a little socially anxious. I'll say that. I mean, I've worked on it a lot and stuff, but
Hmm.
I always remember me raising my hand, and I would do it, but I would be like rehearsing in my head what I
Hmm.
was going to say, like even in
Hmm.
college, right?
Hmm.
And like reading ahead, like practicing in my head what my reading paragraph was going to be when it came around to my turn.
Interesting.
Like that,
Interesting. I was just
like
saying to
so,
somebody else, I was like, that was me in math class. What problem am I going to have to answer? Let me figure it out real fast before
yeah,
it's my
yeah,
turn, because I
totally.
actually have no idea.
Yeah,
That was like math anxiety, not
yeah,
social
totally.
anxiety. And how about, I've heard like replaying
Yeah,
what happened in your head? Like, I said the wrong thing, I did the wrong thing, I shouldn't have said that. Did the person, like,
yeah.
after you've been through a social
Yes,
event?
definitely. So sometimes you'll see like avoidance of doing things in front of people. Usually they're worried about like sounding dumb or sounding like doing something embarrassing in front of other people. Obviously, like show and tell or
Uh-huh.
presentations when they get older is super difficult for them. Um, but yes, the replaying. So sometimes kids still have social anxiety, but you don't see that much avoidance. They might be a kid that's super, I don't know, like social, and they always want to go to the parties, hang out with their friends and stuff. But then they're worried, just like you said, afterwards, did I do something wrong? Oftentimes that comes along with generalized anxiety disorder, which
Okay.
is to put basically when you get stuck in a loop of worrying.
Hmm.
So like worrying, and a lot of reassurance seeking from parents. Like, do you think so and so is mad at me? Or even like, did I do something to annoy you? Or
Interesting.
did I do something wrong? And it really stinks because sometimes I'm like, well, with like some of my favorite little clients when they're telling me, well, I feel like I might have upset my friend accidentally.
Yeah.
And it's, you want to be like, no, you didn't. You're so nice.
Right.
That is not helpful for anxiety, because what anxiety hates is uncertainty, right? So
Okay.
like reassurance seeking, or a lot of anxiety is trying to get certainty or like safety, right? Like if I don't do the presentation at school, then I'm not going to embarrass myself.
Right. I could just avoid the whole thing and it won't be a problem.
And if I like check with the adult, and they say, no, I'm sure you didn't do anything, most of the time anxiety doesn't care, and it's still going to be like, well, then
Worried.
maybe your parent is actually wrong, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is it's hard for me even not to give the reassurance to this super sweet kid who just cares about being like a really good friend. But
Right.
we always talk about, I'm like, you know, I work with a lot of kids. I have not met anyone who has the superpower of reading other people's minds yet.
Right.
I'm like, unless you're
What
telling me something, I don't
right.
think we know what people are thinking,
So what
really.
would help that child to go to that friend and say, "Did I upset you?"
So that's where it gets tricky because
Yeah.
you don't want to create a situation where they're constantly now reassurance seeking from their friends,
Hmm.
right? Of
Right,
like,
because
am
that's
I
going to become irritating as well.
annoying? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
And
you will
if
be
it's
like,
not,
yes, you are upsetting your friends. Yeah,
yeah.
they are
So
upset.
it's kind of like tolerating, like, maybe you did. And then we go through, like, it's unlikely.
Right,
And also you didn't do it on purpose. Like,
right.
you're a good friend. So it's unlikely, but we don't know for sure. But like some kids who I don't think are gonna start doing this reassurance seeking from their friends, I will tell them to do something like that of like
Okay,
just one time. It depends if they have some sort of evidence, but most of the time they have like no evidence and they're
right.
like, it's like what,
It's
like,
just their anxiety. Right.
exactly,
And
exactly.
that's interesting. I taught a child several years ago who had pretty significant anxiety. And what started to happen was this child had almost like a perfectionism anxiety. And so sorry, they had this fabulous group of friends. But when the group of friends would want to do something, this child was really good at organizing people and things and paperwork, and this person could run the world, but they would then try to sort of organize the friends or do it in the way that they pictured, and that started to put the friends off because they felt like this child was being bossy when really, and that's hard to explain to a 9 or 10 year old. It's just their anxiety, like, you know what I mean? It was like their need to
To
sort of
be in
control
control.
for how
Yeah.
they pictured it. So it's tricky, and like 9 and 10 year olds without anxiety don't really want to hear about it or like be sensitive to it, or they can't even really understand it. So you try to say, like, this person isn't trying to be bossy and isn't trying to take over. It's just kind of,
Yeah.
what happens. So that was a fine balance to
At risk of
walk.
sounding like a big meanie, I'm like, I'm not mad about her friends getting
Yeah.
annoyed because it's like everyone has anxiety, not everyone has clinical anxiety, and the
Hmm.
thing that makes it clinical is when it's impairing functional things going on. So
Right.
and relationships with friends is one of those things. So it's like if the environment is pushing on clinical anxiety, like it's not working out to be controlling on the playground,
Hmm. Hmm.
that's good feedback. It's like, and it's not like you want to do it in an understanding and supportive way, but it's like, oh, I'm noticing that it's hard for your friends to like play with you when you really want to be in control. Like, let's
Hmm.
pick things to be flexible about or something like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like when the environment's pushing on it and it's not working out,
It's
that
good, like
as a prompt, yeah, it's
natural
exactly
information.
natural consequence.
Well,
Yeah.
it was interesting because they did like a group project presentation during this special week at school, and this child came sort of, I think they were absent or something, and came late to the group the next day or the second day, and I said to them, because they were also very mature, so you could talk to them like an adult and they understood their anxiety and whatever, but
Oh,
I
wow.
said to them, listen, this is just for fun. Like, I think it was a talent show or some little like show they were going to put on for the school after like a theme week or something. And I said, you weren't here yesterday, and this group of kids who you want to work with already started the presentation. So I'm going to suggest that you kind of just go with it. And it might be messy and it might be sloppy and it might not be the way you want to. And
I
they were
love,
lovely and they were like, that makes a lot of sense. And I think in that case, they were able to kind of let it go because I said, if you want to join this group and not cause waves, we have to work on just letting it be what it is, and you have 3 days to do it, and it's not going to be a Broadway performance. And they were like, okay, and they were able to work within that kind of confine of, so I'm sure it was very difficult for them because they did everything really wonderfully, and that
Yeah.
was kind of their expectation for themselves and everybody else, but they were able to kind of let it go for that one
Yeah, that's awesome.
situation.
That's
So,
that's a really common exposure we do with kids with social anxiety, like doing presentations in front of others and even like messing up on purpose.
mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
we basically want kids with anxiety to learn like anxiety is gonna be there and it's scary and it's uncomfortable and oh it's the worst and you can handle it.
Right, right. And you'll be okay. And I had even said to the mom, because we were talking, and the mom was like, I need to set up some situations where she fails because this child was so good at everything. And I said, like, I'm
Yeah.
sure it's horrible to watch. And I said, but like, what if you take your kids to the local ice cream store and give them $5, but and you're sitting in the car in the parking lot and it's going to cost
Are you
$8.
serious? I do that exposure all
And
the time.
look at me, call me Dr.
That,
Weinrich now.
yeah,
And I don't know
really
if it ever happened, but she
natural.
was like, I said, because it's safe and it's ice cream and you're in the parking lot, but it's like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? You have to go back to the car and get in line again, like get more money and get in line again. And
Yeah,
but that really, really was a struggle for that child. And I really felt for them. I mean, that you could almost see it in their face and in their body language,
yeah.
how very anxious they were all the time. And parents
Agreed.
were great. I mean, the parents were great. The parents were aware of it. They were getting the child help, like all of those things. But I thought, my gosh, like as an adult, I can kind of manage my anxious thoughts. But as a 9 or a 10-year-old, like that's a lot for a kid to carry, like that much worry and concern. And, so you really feel for them if it's
Totally.
if it's that bad.
Sometimes I feel like social anxiety treatment is just like a bunch of pranks. Like your example of the ice cream store and like
Yeah.
we'll like do a funny hairstyle and walk around and probably
Right. It's kind of like you're being punked in out of your social
exactly.
anxiety. You're like, is this an episode of Punked? I know. But you're right. And I know that I have heard that phrase from psychologists and people, who know way more than I do, of that, like, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah,
What's the worst
yeah,
that can happen?
yeah,
If you get a bad grade on your math test, like, okay. Like,
yeah. There,
okay. Like, the
and
sun is still going to rise tomorrow. Your parents are still
totally.
going to love you?
And a
Um,
kid with anxiety might be like, well, that's going to start a whole downward spiral that I'm not going
I
to get
won't go to Princeton.
college. And yeah, well, yeah, around here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I'm like, it's okay. You're in fourth grade. It's fine.
Yeah,
Fine. But yeah, it's a tricky one. Okay, let me see. So what are some simple, let's say that you are noticing, a person is noticing some signs of anxiety in their child, but it hasn't reached a level yet where they need to go outside and seek outside help. What would you say are some simple, practical tools that parents could use at home to manage kind of those thoughts and big feelings?
yeah, I love it. Um, I think being supportive and validating the feelings is always really important because parents um, typically are falling into two patterns. One being like it's fine, like you can do it, right?
Hmm.
Kind of like it's not scary. Another being like, oh gosh, like is this really scary for them? Should I like protect them from this? And
Right.
both ones are coming from excellent parenting. Like you're trying to help your
You're trying
kid.
to protect your child, right?
Yeah, you're seeing your kid, like you're saying, if some anxiety is showing up, but it's not at a level that you need to go seek help. That you're trying to figure out how to do this, but saying it's fine usually will cause the kid to kind of dig their heels in and be like, it's
Okay.
not fine, right?
You're like, oh
That's
no.
not just true for kids, that's true of anyone. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure we
Yeah.
can all think of experiences as adults when you're feeling this emotion and someone's like,
Relax, right? There it is. Relax.
exactly.
Thank you. That's so helpful. I'll
Yeah,
relax now because you told me to.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
And you're so prompted in that moment because it makes sense to as like a communication thing to be like,
Right.
I'm not relaxed. I just told you I'm not relaxed.
Right.
We're
This
trying
is
to
not
prove
helping
the
me.
point. Right, right. So I think like saying it's really scary. Like, don't be scared to say this is really scary to you. I
Hmm.
know this is really scary to you, blah, blah. Because what we always want is for people to be able to experience emotions, but still do the thing.
Hmm.
So, like, looking out for avoidance, right? Like, if a kid, I don't know, doesn't want to go on a roller coaster, right? That's like a common one. And
Right.
also, who cares if they go on a roller
Right. Who cares?
coaster?
Good. We don't have to wait in line. Let's keep
Yeah,
moving. Yeah.
yeah,
That'd be me. It's okay. Let's just keep
exactly.
going.
And so if they're like, "Oh man, it looks so scary," and you'd be like, "Oh, no, it is really scary," right? Like validating, saying out loud what their emotions are, kind of helping them sit with that. And who knows? Let's try it out. It could be, it might be fun. I know you'll be okay. So
Mm.
kind of two things: one, support the emotion and validate the emotion, and then two, confidence, like say a confidence statement. I
Okay.
think that's a really good way to kind of push kids towards something they might be trying to avoid, if it
It's
makes.
interesting that you say that because my daughter, I was telling you before we started recording, she's 6, she's in first grade, and I think I see little signs here and there of maybe a little anxiety, not full blown, she'll go and do things, but often in a new situation, she's very timid. She's very timid at school. She's becoming a little less timid. I said to her teacher, don't call me and tell me she's talking too much because I'm going to say good. She's like, I won't because I'll be, kids, she's very, very quiet at school. Um, but again, like, and I think it's normal at my house, she's a completely different person. I say to everybody at the school, if you came to my house at dinner time, you would not recognize her because woo, girlfriend has some, she's got a big personality, but out in quote unquote public in a place, she's just a little quieter. But if she's going, like she started dance class in September, and the first time she was a little like, she would hold on to us and she would go and we would be like, but I started saying to her, sometimes you can feel excited and scared or excited and nervous at the same time, and that's okay. And that has kind of become a thing that she will say to me. I'll say, what happened? And she'll be like, well, I felt nervous, but I also felt excited, or I was excited, but I also felt a little scared. And I'm like, right, but you did it. You know what I mean? And I feel like I feel like talking about it, like I don't ever say the word anxiety to her, but I'll say, it's okay to feel two feelings at once. Or I also read a thing one time that made so much sense that was like when our kids are feeling shy or when they're in, let's say at a birthday party or at a camp or a class or whatever, and they cling to you and a parent's instinct out of whatever it is, embarrassment or self-conscious, or you're like, no, 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 you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, go over there. And I was reading this thing that was like, okay, but imagine yourself at your spouse's work party, no one, and your spouse, and you say to your spouse like, hey, I'm a little nervous to be here, can I stay with you? And your spouse is like, no, go over
Yeah,
there, you're fine. You'd be like, are you kidding me? And that actually made a lot of sense to me because I think in the past, when she would be at a birthday party or something and want to like stick with me, I'm like, but look, the kids are playing. Go over there. I want to talk to the moms. And then I was like, but that's not helping her. So, and actually, as she's getting older, it's getting much better. But what I'll say is, that's okay. I'm right here. I'll stay here with you until you feel comfortable. And then like she played basketball this winter, and that was the part of like in the beginning of the season she would be nervous to separate and go to with the team even though we were sitting on the bleachers. And one day she was like, I can't. And I said, no, I know you can, but let's sit on the bleachers until you're ready. And she kind of like and made like little grumpy faces and whatever, but I could tell she wanted to. And in a couple minutes, like off she went. And I'm not like I'm so good at this because I'm not, but I have learned little things here and there. And just to say, like, it's okay if you feel uncomfortable. I'm right here was kind of the point of that whole
yeah,
thing that I read, to say, like, I'm right here. And until you feel comfortable,
yeah.
you don't have to do it. And that's actually a way, and she sat on the sidelines and cried for a couple minutes. And then by the end of the season, she'd be like, I don't need you to walk me over there. I will do it myself. And I'm like, okay, good. That was
I love
that
it.
was the end goal there, personality. So, but that was a really big eye opener to me, that whole like considering it as an adult. And when somebody said to you, you're fine, go over there, I'm doing my own thing, like, oh my gosh, how awful. So I'm like, okay, and you can't worry about, what are the other parents thinking, or my kid's crying and everybody else is having fun, and why can't they just like, they're not comfortable in the moment, and you have to
they'll get there.
be there, right? But if you just keep pushing them off, it could prolong it.
Yeah.
So
Well, one,
anyway.
you are so good at
I mean,
it.
I'm really not. People are like,
And
"Oh, you're a teacher. You must be a really good mom." I'm like, "No, no," because the kids at school listen
teachers
to me.
are
My
the
own kids are like, ah, "She knows nothing." But
well, they'll say that, but I don't believe that. But yes, I love what you said of not pushing them because that's just going to make it worse, right?
hmm
I
hmm
mean, I think there's like, and I love also what you said about multiple emotions can happen at the same time because as a parent, that's also really important that you can hold up. You love your kids, you want to protect them, you want them to succeed or whatever.
hmm
And you can also at the same time challenge them. Like love and challenge can happen at the same time. And
Right,
part of loving them is challenging them, right?
right,
But doing it in a you want to be making kind of like progress steps,
right,
right?
right.
Like I think that's actually a good thing for parents to think about of like are we if a kid is anxious, right? Like your example, are we moving towards they're going to go play basketball? If you guys
Right.
had left and went home, nope, you're not moving towards it. Sit
Right.
on the bleachers, you're moving towards
And I
it.
think I even said to her, I was like, that's fine. We can sit here the whole time. And not even in that, like, that's fine. We'll just sit here. I was
Yeah.
like, it wasn't like a threat. It was like because I knew she wouldn't be able, because she wanted to play. And I knew she wouldn't be able to like keep herself on the bleachers the whole time. But I said, if you just want to sit here and watch the whole practice, that's fine. I'm right here. And then, her stubborn streak came out. She's like, I'm going over to my team. And I'm like,
Love
okay.
that.
But there was no expectation. I said, if you just want to sit here and watch tonight, that's okay. And she like, she was like holding my arm and then she like moved herself a little bit away from me and then the jacket came off and then she like stood up and kind of like moved toward the court and then she'd sit back down. And I think it took less than 10 minutes and she
Yeah.
felt like she made the decision. She wasn't pushed into it.
Yeah.
And then she was out there on the court, bouncing
And,
her little ball.
and
And I
by
was like, okay, good. So
and by not leaving, you created the opportunity for her to learn that she can do it,
hmm
right? Like
hmm
that's another thing with anxious kids. Like we want to make sure we're not accidentally blocking learning opportunities by like
right,
saving them or taking them home or whatever. Because
right.
that's awesome that she experienced. Hey, I'm pretty brave actually. I can go.
Yeah,
Because
I could do
also
it.
that is really scary. Like
Also, we're starting softball season soon. I'm like, oh, here we go. It's going to be
you
like 3 weeks
have
of
to
like, I
be
don't want to. And then by like May, she'll think she's like, a little Phillies play or something. I can do it by myself. But
I love
she
it.
takes a long time to warm up to things. It was funny. Her teacher actually just said to me a couple weeks ago, she's like, oh, I was testing her for reading, and she's like, and I could have taken her a lot farther, but she was giving me one word answers. And she's like, Catherine, just talk to me. Like, I've been your teacher for 7 months. And she's like, she answered the questions, but it was like one word. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, literally, come to my house for dinner. You will not believe the
Yeah.
child who is sitting here. And I said, that's funny because usually if she's one-on-one with somebody or it's an adult, she's more comfortable. She's like, nope, I was getting the answer and nothing more. And I was like, okay. But I was like, but she's talking to you, so there's that.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
anyway, okay, and we talked about kind of coping skills and whatever. School, as you said, can be a major source of anxiety. All we teachers were so mean and scary. I say that to the kids in my class. I'm like, I know I'm so mean. They're like, no, you're not. I'm like, well, good. I'm glad you don't think that. But but some kids do have situations in their classroom that are a little, nerve-wracking or anxiety building or whatever it is. And what are some healthy ways that parents can support kids around tests or homework or even just like I know we have kids who have some days like somebody will have to go out and sort of get them out of the car because they just have anxiety about coming to school for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing, I think those supportive statements, right? Like validating the emotion, but also saying confidence, like, oh, yeah, tests are really nerve-wracking. It sounds like you care a lot about them. Like, that's pretty cool of you. And I know you'll be able to handle it. But something I haven't said yet is kids learn from like things we say, but they also mostly learn from things we do.
Right. Say
They
what,
like
do what I do, not as I say, right? Isn't that what
right.
it is?
And I think that like again, this is a common trap that happens to parents of kids with anxiety, that they're accident when their kids like, oh gosh, it's so scary to go to school and like take a test, and then the parents like, like you might accidentally come to the conclusion, whoa, maybe they're not prepared for this test. And it's like,
Okay.
okay, well, let's make sure you study a lot and
Mm.
let's make sure you're super prepared. Accidentally, the kid might be like, whoa, I am not prepared. Like,
Right, right, right. Oh, my parents have these super high
yeah,
expectations. Yeah.
yeah. And like, whoa, you as a parent are worried about this? Wow, I should really be worried too then. So just thinking carefully of like, what do you want them to learn from your responses? Also, you could totally be right. Maybe they do need to prepare more. Like,
Maybe they are. Maybe you
yeah,
do need to
yeah,
spend a little time.
yeah. But I think thinking about kind of like kids with things, this is why it's hard, right? It's like superhero level parenting
Yeah.
when kids are struggling with these sort of things, because it's like they're anxious kids are hyper vigilant, they're looking, they're
They're ready to
scanning,
pounce at any moment, right?
yeah, they're like a tiger's going to come out, or so they're like looking at you, and if you're conveying this is something to worry about, they're going to super pick up on that.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, is that a good answer?
I think it is. And I mean, and I only have experience in elementary school. And of course, elementary school is super important for so many things. I think grade wise and test wise, in the here comes my teaching philosophy. Now, in the grand scheme, what I look at elementary school as, and I can't speak for older kids, and because I know school becomes more pressurized and more, quote unquote, important in grades and college and everything. But
Mhm.
from the age 10 down or fourth grade down, my goal in school is to, of course, teach the kids skills that will make them successful in middle school and in life and whatever, but also just to teach them like how to be people. So
Mhm.
I have taken kids into the hallway who are upset about a test or a missing homework, and I'll actually say to them, I don't really care that your homework isn't here today. Like, you know what I mean? Or like, there was a child taking one of the standardized tests last year, and she had gone an hour or an hour and a half past everybody else. And she was in like another classroom taking it. And I saw her when I was walking down the hall. And she was just kind of sitting there like with her head in her hands. And I was her math teacher, and she was taking the math portion of the PSSAs. And I went into the room and I like knelt down and I said, honey, it's not that important. Like, because the look on her face and the fact that she had been working on it for 3 hours,
Oh,
I was like, you're a good math kid. You're a good kid. You're a hard worker. I am telling you, as your math teacher, like, this is not so important that you need to spend 17 hours. I said,
yeah.
give it your best shot. I want you out of this room in 15 minutes. And she was like, okay. And I saw her mom a couple days later. I was like, so when the math score comes back bad, you can blame me now. And she was like, no, she came home and she told me that you had said that, and it actually made her feel better. Now, would I say that to her if she were taking the SATs and wanted to go to Columbia? No. But like,
Yeah.
and maybe it's bad of me to even say it on here, but I thought, this little girl's mental health, sitting in a room for 3 hours taking a test, like, honey, just pick an answer and move
Yeah.
on. I mean, I feel like that's kind of what
You
elementary
stuck?
school
Was she like
is.
checking it over and over again or
I
something?
think she was like overthinking. And
Oh
she was an excellent student. And I think she just wanted to do it well and do it right. And she just kind of, and there is a little bit of pressure on the kids, unfortunately, when they take those standardized state tests and whatever. But anyway, long-winded way of saying my thought is that elementary school is the place for them to kind of learn to love school or to learn to make mistakes. And like kids will do something like they all sign their parents' name and then they get quote unquote in trouble. And I'll talk to them and I'm going to say, but actually, it's really good that you learned this here in fourth grade at elementary school where you're safe and we understand rather than you signing your name to somebody else's check when you're 32 years old or like, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like committing insurance fraud or something like
Yeah.
this is a place to learn. And I know that sometimes when there are kids who have trouble getting out of the car, like the office will call and say, so and so's coming to you. They're having a day. And you see them and they come to your room with like red eyes, and I'll often meet them in the hallway and I'm like, we're not going to cry about spelling homework. And they're like, okay. And I feel like I give a lot of like, what's more important right now? did you forget your spelling homework? Does it really matter? No.
Right.
And that's not the message I necessarily want to give them, but like, it is not worth this kid spiraling and
Right.
having a bad day because like a little girl, um, I don't know, didn't have like a binder or something and was all like worked up. And I go, walk down the hall with me. I got 20 binders. Which one do you want? And she was like, this one. And, like, and again, I'm not like, I'm so fabulous. I'm not these, but this is kind of my philosophy is like, learn to love school, learn to make mistakes in a safe place, like in elementary school before you're 11 or 12 or in seventh grade or eighth grade. And
Yeah.
hopefully, if they have that foundation of,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not even
No,
making any
mistakes.
sense, but
No, you totally are. Because kids they're going to try out a bunch of different things, but also like it's a learning opportunity making
hmm
mistakes, right? And I'm sure you would, if a kid that like never does their homework, you're not going to be like,
that's a different story, right?
right? But like for a kid with anxiety that clearly these kids, I mean, and who knows if it's clinical anxiety, whatever, but they have like some sort of fear that
hmm
something bad is going to happen from forgetting your homework one day, and it's an awesome lesson to learn. Not a big deal.
Right,
Or
right.
it sucked and you were embarrassed and you felt like you were a bad student, you could handle it.
Right. It's not a bit, the
If
sun is
another
still going to
kid,
rise tomorrow.
yeah, yeah,
It's not the end of the world. And so, and that, just to kind of look at them as little people, and I look at them and they're similar to the age of my own children. And I think, what would I want somebody to do for my child? Because I always call myself school mom. And I'm like, because I am kind of, like I'm your person when you're at school. And
yeah,
so, we're not going to ruin our day over the fact that, like, we forgot our yellow paper. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, take the lesson, bring it on Monday, and let's all move forward.
small
Um,
things.
so, and okay, so this is a good one, and this one kind of a little bit applies to me because I was telling you before we recorded that since having children and since different things have happened in the world and different things have happened, to my own children, that I have developed a little bit of anxiety, and a little bit, just a little, and I'm like, what parent hasn't? But I feel like there was a point in time where I was concerned that I was going to pass my worry and concern and anxiety onto my own children. One, especially one who's more prone to it. The other one's like, I'm just chilling, mom. Nothing really worries me. I'm like, no, it sure doesn't. Like, never has. My
You're
son,
so
I'm
jealous.
like, is there anything you worry about? And he's like, no, why? Should there be? And I'm like,
Yeah.
there he is. That's
What a
my
novel
son in a
concept.
nutshell. He's like straight up chilling all the time. I'm like, okay, buddy. Meanwhile, his sister and I are like, a wreck. But
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
he's like, no, I'm good. I'm like, if you could be a little more worried about a couple things, that'd be great. But
Yeah.
how can, because I got to the point where I was like, maybe I do need to do something about this because I didn't want my anxieties and concerns and fears to be put onto my children. Because I think just my reaction to things, or if, my daughter would trip and fall, I'd be like, and and I'm like, oh my gosh, like she fell on the rug. It's okay. Like everything's, but my own concerns about her safety and whatever, I didn't want her to then think that she was made of glass. So what would you say to parents who are having sort of like you don't want to unintentionally transfer it to your children?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, and this doesn't sound like the case for you, but if it's like severe, I would say definitely go and see a psychologist or a
Yeah.
therapist. But outside of that, um, I think, well, one, like what a opportunity, because if you're experiencing anxiety yourself, you are really understanding like what your kids are going through. So
Like, yep, I
that's
feel that.
yeah, yeah, and stinks that you're probably both super nervous in situations or whatever. But what an opportunity to like really connect and understand, and give a lot of like validation and support. And I think that uh like kind of an overarching rule for anxiety is we want to go towards anxiety rather than away from it,
Mm,
right? So like anxiety
like
is
face
telling
it.
you to avoid things, or even sometimes with like high functioning, you accidentally start like white knuckling through life that
Yeah.
like I'm, as if you're like driving a car and you're like you're
Mm-hmm.
still doing all the things. There isn't a lot of avoidance, but you're accidentally like ignoring emotions.
Yeah.
And something that I said earlier when I was like, be careful that you're not accidentally teaching your kids that tests are scary. I don't mean ignore your emotions.
Right.
Like more just be like it can be really awesome, an awesome teaching moment for kids for you to be like, oh, I have this like, I don't know, presentation at work tomorrow. I'm like super nervous about it. Like my hands are sweaty. Like my,
Yeah.
just like say out loud what's happening to you
Yeah.
and model. And I'm still gonna approach this. I'm gonna do it. It's important to me. Um, so I think, yeah, I think modeling is the best. And if you have anxiety yourself, you're gonna have anxiety, right? It's not like we have a very good way of sorry, I just pressed something and I lost
Oh,
you.
there you are.
um we don't have a very good way of like just making anxiety go away. I mean,
Right.
if I could figure that out, I'd be like a billionaire.
Right.
It's more like let's have the anxiety and do the thing anyway. And also knowing that anxiety really is trying to help you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
That's interesting. That's an interesting way to look at it.
yeah, like actually everyone has anxiety, not everyone has clinical anxiety.
Okay. That
So
makes
like,
sense.
yeah, it makes sense. Like if you're crossing the street and you look and there's a bus coming towards you, it's very helpful for your brain to go, ah,
Whoa.
to start pumping, get blood flowing to your muscles so that you can like do the athletic thing of like jumping out the way, right?
Right.
That's helpful. It's what clinical anxiety is your brain's getting a little confused and thinking that doing like show and tell at school or like raising your hand talking in front of the class is the same thing as jumping out of the bus.
Right.
So it's trying to help you. We just have to figure out. Sorry, I feel like I'm going all over the place, but one thing I do a lot with kids is, oh, anxiety spiking. Let's be curious about it. Is this a red light of like, stop what you're doing? This is
Interesting.
an unsafe situation. Like, don't cross the road. There's a bear in the wood. Well, that's not a good example because you're not supposed to run. There's a real danger, right?
Right.
Is it a yellow light that anxiety is trying to warn you about something? And maybe I feel like I keep talking about talking in front of the class, but it's such an
It's
easy
a
example.
big one. Yeah.
I care a lot about this thing. Like I want to do a good job at school. Warning light, I'm nervous. Okay,
But it
being
will
nervous
make me be
can
better.
help you, yeah, like pay
Yeah.
more attention and
Hmm.
like speak more clearly or whatever. So it's like approach with caution. And then sometimes it's really a green light that anxiety is totally wrong. And it's like, there's no danger here. We're just
Right.
going to move forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I went a little bit all over the place with that.
No,
But
but that all those things are good things for, I think, parents to easily, without an education in psychology, to be able to talk about with their
yeah,
kids. The green light, red light, yellow light. I know that I had heard of like check your temperature, like your, or change the, I'm sorry, no, it wasn't, maybe it was check your temperature, but I don't remember that one. But it was change the channel on like quote unquote your remote in your head. Change the channel from what you're thinking about to think about the play date you have with your friend, or that kind of a thing. And I think those strategies are good for kids because they can actually like understand it and follow through. You know what I mean? It makes sense
yeah,
to them.
totally.
So those are good ones. Okay, two more big questions, and then we'll do your fun hot seat questions. At what point would you say parents should consider professional help for their children?
Yeah. I think, it's hard because, I mean, I'll be real. I know that professional help is expensive and
Hmm.
insurance is like even worse this
Yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so it's like if you're like, I don't really know what to do, and you're starting to notice that your kid is trying to avoid stuff and is distressed, it's honestly way better to do the therapy earlier than
Okay.
later
Okay.
because like nipping it in the bud sort of thing. It's
Hmm.
just so much easier.
Right, then letting it
I'm
grow.
like, make my job easier. Come
Right. Bring it to me when it's just a little something. But that's right. I mean, like with anything, it's better to take care of it when it's starting than to let it snowball, and then you've got a lot
Exactly.
of things to work through.
And I mean, then treatment probably will be shorter too.
Okay.
because patterns haven't gotten really stuck.
And I'm
Um,
sure you, as a psychologist, would probably say that you would rather see a kid one time who doesn't really need to see you to be able to say to the parents, they're pretty good, than
yeah,
see a kid 4 years into it who's a disaster. Yeah. Or
yeah,
like, here's a 3 session, whatever, I'll give them some tools and we should be fine because it's just
yeah,
starting.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Before it gets huge. And what would you say real progress looks like for a child learning to manage anxiety? I think you kind of said it earlier,
Yeah.
but go ahead and wrap us up with that.
It's like feel the feelings and do the thing anyway.
Yeah. And if you're not like changing your life over
Yeah.
it, right? Like if
And
you
I
can
think
still do
that's
it.
important because unfortunately a lot of people like with anxiety, adults, kids, parents, whatever, come to therapy. They're like, you're gonna make me not anxious, right? And I'm like, oh
No.
no.
Nope, can't do. Again, you'd be a billionaire if you could do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, I
No,
will.
I'm going to teach you the tools. Teach you the
Exactly.
tools. All right, great. I think that was very helpful to me. I'm sure it will be very helpful to our listeners. And again, I mean, it feels like so many more kids and adults have anxiety these days. And I think
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine who also has anxiety, and she said, I have found even as an adult, it's important to talk about it. And she said, because like I had said earlier, she's like, the more people I talk to, the more people I realize have it. And then I feel like, oh, I'm not the only one. And I was like, I don't think you're the only one by far. I think, it's just
Totally.
the world
Yeah.
we live in, which is a shame. But we need to
Yeah.
go back to, I don't know, when times were, I don't know when that was, when nobody had anything to worry about.
And our anxiety actually was about bears or
Right,
tigers.
right, 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 right. It wasn't about, oh my goodness, the dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. What is your favorite childhood memory?
Oh my gosh. Uh, Probably getting our first dog.
Oh, nice.
Asked for her for a long time, for 12 years.
12 years. And what was her name?
Lizzie, after Lizzie McGuire, of
Oh,
course.
stop. That's hilarious. Okay, good. What kind of a dog was she?
Black Lab, and I've
Black
only
lab.
had those since.
Oh, have you given them human names?
Yeah, actually, Keely, and then the current one is Sterling.
Oh, I like Sterling. That's cool. Classy. It's a classy dog.
Yeah.
Who do you admire most and why?
um, Probably my brother. He uh he's like struggled with some things, but is also just like an awesome person and like tries really hard at lots of things and just has like an awesome outlook on the world, I think.
Oh, he's your little brother, right? So
Yes, yeah.
there
Oh
he
yeah,
is.
I forgot that you that you
I
remembered
taught
that
him a
was so
million years
impressive
ago.
with
Uh-huh.
your
Yeah.
memory.
I remember him with his little like bowl haircut.
I know that's also how you were like his bowl haircut and his red turtleneck, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's how I remember him too.
That's
That
how I
bowl
think of him when I think of him.
turtleneck.
There he is, little red turtleneck. Yep. Uh-huh. Do you enjoy being, and I guess you had a lot of experience with this. Do you like being somewhere where nobody knows you?
Yeah,
Like on the West
I
Coast, when
used to
everyone
hate
you know is on the East Coast.
Yeah, I used to hate it, but I've had exposure therapy works, right?
There you go.
I've
Go
had
live in
so
15 other
many
parts of the
experiences.
country.
Yeah,
It'll cure
and
you real
now
fast.
it's very easy for me to be in new places.
Okay. What do you think makes somebody a good person?
Um, hmm. I think understand I have like a core belief that everyone means well.
Mm,
Uh, well, I shouldn't say that. That everyone has good in them.
okay.
So I think being able to look for the good in people, and by that also is understanding when you're like, I can't see any good in this person.
They lost the good
People
gene.
like that. But yeah, but being like flexible and like, okay, there's probably things that have happened to them that have led to difficulties or whatever.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. And most people are doing their best, right?
Right. Yep.
What's a skill you've always wanted to learn?
Oh, singing.
Oh, are you like a shower singer or a
I
car
guess it's
singer?
not really a skill because you have to
You either
be
have it or you don't, I think, unless you take lessons. So do
yeah.
you have it or do you not?
Okay, I'll change it. I want to get better at skiing.
Oh, okay. Okay. That is a skill that I do not have. I think I went once in eighth grade and No, never made it off the bunny hill, so I'll
It's
move on with that. Do you do a lot of skiing?
well, yeah, I do, but I'm not very good, so
Oh, I just have to do more, right? Just keep
yeah.
getting better. All-time favorite food?
Pizza for
Mm,
sure.
I feel like a lot of people could say that, right? It's just like pizza.
It's
That's
so
it.
good.
A couple more. What's your phone app that you use the most?
Oh, YouTube. I am terrible at I watch so many podcasts just
Okay.
free time that I have. And I'm not even like watching. It's like while I'm doing the dishes, I'll like have it on, but I always play them
In the
on
background.
YouTube.
But don't you feel like because I obviously like to listen to podcasts, but I also like to listen to music. But sometimes I feel like listening to the podcasts obviously like occupies my mind more and makes the time go faster if it's something I'm like, not necessarily enjoying. Like I'll go for a walk for exercise or whatever, and I used to listen to music, which was great, but then I started listening to podcasts and I'm like I find that I'm like, "Oh, I'm halfway through my walk now because you're thinking. Like
Yeah,
it's giving you something to do rather than just singing
yeah,
along."
yeah.
What is your favorite podcast other than this one? No, I'm
Oh
just
man,
kidding.
yeah, this one for
I
sure.
mean,
This is gonna reveal too much about me.
lie
Okay.
to us. It's okay.
I love comedians.
Okay.
I love the podcast Bad Friends. I think my best friend and I, who's also a child psychologist, we're obsessed with these comedians and the podcast. And it's not necessarily like I was trying to make my brother listen to one the other day, and he was like, I just don't think this is funny. And I was like, I don't, sometimes I think it's funny, but it's not necessarily that I think they're so hilarious. I just think people are so interesting. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I just
And
love
you're
listening
probably like breaking them
to
apart with your psychology brain,
them.
reading us all.
No, I don't do that. But yeah, I just find it so interesting, and they're very like witty and obviously really intelligent, and I just find anyone like that like super interesting.
Interesting to listen to occupy your brain.
Yeah.
Biggest fear.
Oh, well, I have a needle phobia.
Oh, okay.
So I guess
Okay.
that's the thing that um yeah, biggest fear. Other than all the obvious ones that everyone has,
Right,
like
that everybody has. So what do you do when you have to get a shot?
ugh, I just sit there sweating a lot, lie down, cry a lot. It's
Really,
like
even for just
feel
like a flu
feel
shot or something.
oh, flu shot I might not cry, but I'll be like dripping in sweat.
That's so
But
funny.
I
So many
always have to
people have
say,
that,
yeah,
that fear
I
of
always just
needles.
have to say like, I'm just gonna be crying, just do it.
Right, you're like, I'm
Feel the
working
fear and
through
do
it.
it anyway,
I
right?
have anxiety. My feelings are fine. I'm just going to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I don't know if I've told this story on the show before or not, but my daughter does not like to get needles. And we took her to get her flu shot like last fall, like a year and a half ago. And she's carrying on and she was sitting on my lap and I was hugging her to hold her arms down. And my husband kind of had her legs and the nurse put the needle in, but she somehow like kind of broke free and was flailing so much that the flu shot got like on my face and in my husband's mouth.
Oh my
And we
God.
were like, I was like, Catherine, come on, and I looked at the nurse and I go, I mean, we're here. Can you give her another one? She's like, I can give her another. She's like, because like nothing got in because she like knocked it out. And I was like, listen, and I said, probably like the worst mom in the world. I was like, you're going to have to keep getting this shot until it goes into your body. And somehow she got her in there. My husband's like, so just to be clear, like, I'm okay that I swallowed some flu shot, right? She's like, I think so.
Yeah,
I've really had this happen before.
yeah,
I was
I
like, now
know.
you have double immunity. Oh my gosh,
That's
it was like such a
hilarious.
scene. So then this year we took her to or my husband did to get the flu mist instead. He's like, no, same reaction. He was like,
I
if
didn't
you just
even
like,
know that was a thing.
yeah,
What
they
is
like spray it and then you like breathe it in instead. And he's like, yeah, it
gosh,
wasn't
don't
really any
tell me
better.
that. And now I have a new avoidance technique.
There you go. Well, take my daughter with you. Maybe the two of you can like work it out
I will say, I have gotten a shot in front of a client before
just to
as the
show.
final exposure step before they got the shot.
So then you really had to hold yourself
Yeah.
together, didn't you?
But I told him, I was like, I have this phobia too.
We're
Like,
gonna do it together. Do it
I'm just gonna
together.
be crying.
Well, then, of course, like my daughter comes home and she's like, "Oh yeah, I just got my flu mist," and like she was a big deal about it. My husband's standing behind her, like with this look on his face. He's like, "I had to hold her down." And I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, "Yeah, but now you know what it feels like. So next year, if you get the flu mist, it's not a big deal." And she was like, "We'll see." I was like, "Yeah, we'll see."
I will.
Girlfriend, she
It's a
got the
really hard
personality. I'm
one.
telling you. All right, last question. What is one thing you think that most people have and don't appreciate enough?
Uh, good people around them.
Mm,
I
I
feel
love
like
that.
that's the most, I don't know, I'm kind of in that theme of my life right now that I moved back.
It's a good theme to be in, I think. That's because really what's more important than, people and family and friends to love.
Totally.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Fiona MacPhee, for this thoughtful and reassuring conversation. And thank you to our listeners for joining us today as we talked about supporting kids' mental health and ourselves through anxiety. And you also said you specialize in OCD, ADHD, school stress, kind of everything in between. Fiona's website is www.psychologyforfamilies.org. Is that
Yep.
correct? Okay,
Yep.
and I'll link it in the show notes. And again, you can find her at Dr. Fiona MacPhee on Instagram. Um, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode and it reminded you that you're not alone, you're not failing, and support is always an option. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at MomsWork Podcast, and listen, follow, and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again, Fiona.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Loved it.